Welcome to ChessWhiz Arcade, Episode 5, Part 2, Season 1. In the last portion of the episode, we did nothing interesting. We got the server-client architecture communicating. The client, which is the web browser, can now send a message up to the server and say, "Hi there, I have a message for you." Server can reply and send a message back. That's nothing new in terms of playing the game. There's nothing you can see. However, now we can build on that to actually send important game messages like, "Hey, I made this move. Hey, this bad guy just appeared," between the server and client. So that's what we're going to do right now. Let's get started. Full screen view of ChessWhiz TV Arcade. This is the game right now. It's not available because I just stopped it, but let's start it and then we can view it. The game right now is this knight moving around. Bam. 3, 2, 1, go. I should speed up that counter because I don't like waiting. Moving around. So there's nothing new here. What I am going to add now, though, is you see how this bishop, this piece appears right at the start of the game. The client is adding that. We're going to make it so that the server adds that instead of the client. So that when you start a game, the client says, "I don't know where anything is." And then the server tells you where it is. That way nobody can cheat and say, "There ain't nothing here." The server is going to tell you what's where. So we're going to be like add. We're not going to use this right now because it's too much trouble to track what we're doing. Just kidding. We're not using it because I'm the boss and I say we're not using it. So here is our hub manager, and we're going to make a new object called add enemy. This is called add enemy. Boy, this is going to be difficult to communicate between the world and the hub, right? Because when add enemy comes in, I think we need to have some hooks in here. This is called we're going to make a hub manager. This thing makes is a hub manager, okay? And then we're going to make one of them. We're going to make a singleton called the hub manager so that we can get a hold of this thing. Okay, so now hub manager is referenceable from the world, which is where everything's going on. So you can see here in the world we create new enemies. Where is that? It's the call spawn, right? But right now spawn chooses the location. Here's the logic for choosing the location, and then it calls this dot enemy stop push, right? So we're going to have a new function called server spawn. We'll rename this later, but right now we're just going to say when the server calls this, all we do is push it. It's going to be a pawn, it's going to be black, and its location is going to be enemy.pause x, and its location-wise enemy.pause y. That's passed in. So this server spawn skips everything, skips all the logic that says where does it go, skips all the logic that says where does it go, because that's all the logic does, is choose where it goes. Now the server's going to tell you where it goes. So that's going to save you some trouble of making anything up. You're just going to trust the server. So now this it needs to be registered with the hub manager. I think bind is a reserved word. No, it's not. Yeah, it is. No, it's not. You're going to pass in the name of the function and the callback that you're going to call. This may not work at all. I'm not even explaining what I'm doing because it may not work. But I'm going to say, let's model it after my keyboard manager, which has a list of bindings. bind, it's going to add out to the list. This is not good code. I should look up a better way. And then, okay, so put this on top. So now here's my hub. So these are actually doing separate things. It's going to say when you add an enemy, it's going to loop through the bindings. And if the name is equal to add enemy, then it's going to call the callback. See how bad this is? And pass the enemy in. So now I can bind it. I can say, okay, whenever the hub gets server spawn, it's going to, I don't like this architecture at all. Whenever the hub gets add enemy, it's going to call server spawn. This is a way to hook these up between the hub and the world, but I'm not liking this code. So I got to think it over again. If world were a singleton, then I could just program everything from the hub. The only reason world can't be a singleton where do I make the world? Where do I make the world? There it is. I'm going to make world a singleton. Oh, I know why I can't. Because everything is loaded in a certain order. So let's look at my bundlers. So I load world at the end, and world depends on player. So if I really want to make world I can. It just has to be even uglier. So this code runs at the beginning, everything loads. I could put it outside, and now it's all caps, and it's global scope. So I think I'm going to do that instead of all these bindings. So I'm done with the binding stuff. Now with that logic, I might re-architect this again, but for now, world is in all caps. So now all of this worldy stuff for the key binding stuff is the super world. And that's for pressing spacebar. And this is for binding mouse clicks and touches, which don't even support it. So let's search the whole project for world. Designed and built with all the love in the world. That's probably not what I'm looking for. This is receiving the world. This is no longer necessary because there's only one world. There's only one world loop. There's only one world paint. There's only one world. Probably going to regret this. Hello world. I'll just make it say hello because I don't want that to say world. I know this is boring right now, but I'm thinking that I will be able to access a lot better. ChessWhiz is a ninja programmer. An unusual emergency. Okay, though that's not part of the program. I don't know if you could read that behind there. So that's a lot of worlds, but now world is in all caps and it can be accessed anywhere. So if I build this, I can now reference the world in here, be like world dot blah blah blah. So I'm going to do that after I make sure that everything still works, because I might have broken everything. Probably broke everything. I did. Hub manager is not defined there, and bind is not defined there. Well, that's fine. Let's try hub manager though. That's not so good. Why is that not defined? Let's look at the bundler and be like, it's definitely in before globals. there's no such thing as a hub manager. Yeah, I don't need that anymore, I think, because hub manager sees the world because it's a global singleton. So now the game works again. Bam, 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 bam. Great. Wow, I can move pretty fast. But the difference is now when I add an enemy, I can just be like world dot server spawn. See how easy that is? That's way better. So now, bam, world done. Bam, world. Comes in here, it adds a new enemy, adds it at position X and Y. Now we see from the hub that the position is 5 and 4. So let's actually see if this works. Isn't this going to be cool? Except it doesn't work. Did this breakpoint get hit? Yeah. Step in there. Why didn't she push that? Oh, that's undefined because the P is small. Your P is small. I gotta say that somebody's P is small here. And I'm not sure whose it is. So because this is a server object, I'm like, wow, server, I should capitalize all these things because it's C#. But then it gets down to the client and I'm like, okay, so I'm on the client, so I make it small. So that's why it's not finding pos X, because it's capital P on the server and it's a small p in the client. So what we're gonna do is actually live with small p's everywhere. So let's go to the model. We're gonna say this is a server client model. I'm doing a rename here. This is rename pos Y to pos Y. This is a client model in the sense that the client is going to receive it. So I'm going to live with the small p. I think that's better than having the JavaScript have capital stuff, which would confuse it. So we're going to see a piece appear. Bam! It works. At the start of the game, it puts that pawn right there. And you can see it doesn't happen immediately because of the breakpoint. It doesn't happen immediately. It happens almost immediately. Dun-dun, because it's setting up the communication first. So War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells and ChessWhiz. Interesting comment there, Beats. Interesting comment. So bam, bam, bam. And I'll capture that one, which is growing. So it actually works. So now the birth milliseconds is the second that it's created. So now we can add enemies with this thing. Anytime I want, I can add enemy by calling clients.all.addEnemy. Downside is all the clients will receive this message. So if a whole bunch of people are playing Uprising at the same time, they're all going to get enemies on all their boards at once. But I'll fix that in the future. Not now. So I think I need a call for starting the game. Pass anything in. And now I need to get the current, see what I did here in JavaScript to get the current time. It is clock. Is it in the clock manager? Where's get the current time? I thought I was, yeah, here it is, new date.getTime. So I want the equivalent of that in C#. See, this is what I want to know, because I want the times to be synchronized. Okay, the answer is that. This code is about to get more beautiful, because there is no way I'm going to keep it this bad. Retval, I don't name stuff that. Yeah, who would program like that? That's called the epoch. Nice try. The time span equals a retval, return retval. So I don't need retval. I can just return this thing. That's short for return value, but who would write like that? Cast it to an N64. And why are you adding half? Probably for round down, because that last millisecond is going to be super important. So this is a function that will get the starting time. And I should probably put it somewhere, like some utilities thing. It gets 1970. It gets the span. So don't need that. I can do like that. The time span is now minus 1970, and I need to get the total milliseconds. sure, naming variables is really hard. And then bam. So I could do all of this in one line now, as you can see. I just need to say this. Total milliseconds plus 0.5. I'm actually tempted to put it all in one line because then I don't need a function or nothing. I can just cast this to an int64. Okay. This is the time right now, and this is when the game starts. Datetime.now is not quite good enough because I need, yeah, it has to be in relation to 1970, which is the JavaScript version of it. Okay. So that is also going to be reflected here. Client.start game. So I need like a start game model, which is what you send to the I'm adding a model here. I'm actually going to call it the start game model. I can rename it later. And it has the, apparently there's such a thing as an int64, and that's exactly what I want. Start milliseconds, which is the milliseconds at which the game is starting. Now I'm going to pass that down. It's going to be small s because it's a server. It's a client model. I guess I'll call that model. It should probably be renamed too. Right now this is going to be clients.all when I want to send a message, but in the future I'll say clients.ones that are playing this game right now. Start game. Bam! Condense that down into about 0 lines, and it's going to call start game. So this is going to say, hey there. It's the semicolon. Hey there, client. No, it's not. Semicolon here. That's an int64. And that is an int64. So you got a problem with that? It actually says I can't convert the double to the long. I'm converting the double to the long. There we go. Now it's being cast properly. And then pass the model down. So that tells the client, okay, we're starting at this time exactly. So now let's go add a server. See, I don't want to put every piece of logic right here in the hub because then the hub's going to get massive. So what I'm thinking about right now is the logic that picks a location for the enemy piece. It's the equivalent of this server-side function here that says loop through the whole board. Don't put pieces where the player is. Don't put pieces where a player can move or corners, etc. I'm going to program that on the server side, but I don't want to put it here in the hub because the hub is the communication thing. So we're going to add a service. I'm going to add a folder here. I know you can't see the menu. Now I can't see the menu. Arcade. And another one called Uprising. The reason I nest this is because if we have more games, they'll be next to Uprising in the arcade section. So this first class is going to be the service. This is so hard. So hard. Because I'm just kind of architecting on the fly, so it's certainly going to come out weird. It's like building your house before you have planned it out. So the enemy service is going to have a function called See, what I'm thinking about now is it needs to reply with x and y at the location that it's going to place it. Because this is a function that you tell it the board and it says, okay, I'm going to put a piece here. It's the equivalent of that JavaScript one, but it needs to reply with two things, an x and a y. So I need a class to store that. I'm certainly not going to return an anonymous type because this is C#. So it needs to be strongly typed. I'm turning myself up right now. Hope that's okay with you guys. So, and the problem is this thing does not know the state of the game. Thinking this through as I go here. Should I put this in my data model or my service layer? I'm adding a folder called models, and I'm making a class called position. So we're getting into the guts of the logic here. There is a position object which has a position x and a position y. These are now uppercase, which is nasty because that casing is a problem. So maybe I should do everything uppercase even when it's on the client and just deal with that the other direction. So now this thing can return a position. Now the logic is going to be something like this world logic, which is the problem with this is that the entire game state needs to be passed in. It needs to know where all the enemies are. It needs to know where the players are. And that's all. But why would I pass the entire game state? That's what I need to do. Because this is like a web request. Like, hey, by the way, need a new enemy. So I'm going to start cranking out some models here. Building on the fly. So I'm adding a new class next to the position class, and it's going to be called enemy. I could use this enemy model down here. Why wouldn't I? Yeah, this is the old model versus view model debate. Sorry it's still going. Sorry I'm doing all my thinking without talking, but I am. So live with it. So I'm moving a lot of the logic from the web project, which is like the hub that communicates, back into another project which is called the service layer, which is where I'm going to put the game logic. It's a little bit separated out. It's a step behind the web interface that talks to the browser, but it allows me to have a little bit of separation there between the plumbing of the communication, which is a SignalR hub communicating, and the actual game logic. Because let's say I was like, SignalR trash, I want to use another technology. It wouldn't be very easy to do that because I might have to drop .NET, you know, like I want to use Node.js and WebSockets. That would be tough because I would have to drop all the C# code. But the idea is there that I could use a different WebSockets technology besides SignalR, and I don't have to change out some of this other stuff because it's a layer behind it. But I am going to copy these properties, and I'm going to make this capital. Change my mind on that. I'm actually going to delete this model for now and pass the other models all the way through, because I don't need a model for the hub layer, I think. So right now it just has x, y, and birth ms. So now I'm going to create a new model, which is going to be the entire state. So this is a very important class. It contains the entire state of a given game. So this kind of maps what world is on the client side. And so let's see what world has. It has a canvas. That's just presentation layer. It has a board, which, what can the board do? I think all it can do is draw. Yeah, all it can do is draw itself. So that's the level, the current level. That's important. That's part of the game state. Okay. Captures until level up. That's part of the game state, isn't it? I might not need to track that specifically. I could just track how many captures have been made. There, I typed it all out. I'm not going to do that because I don't need to store this, because this is like whether the game is running or paused or you lost. A list of players and a list of enemies. So those are important, of course. There's the list of enemy and a list of players. Now a player is a lot like an enemy. The difference, and here's some functions. So there's not a lot to the state. That's good because this is a simple game, and this is a good starter game for learning about the kinds of stuff we're doing in the client-server architecture. So a player is a lot like an enemy. If we look at the player class, it really just is an enemy, which is the type, color, position, X, and Y. And we don't need to worry about much of this. We can calculate the type of an enemy based on how old it is. We can calculate the color of an enemy because we know it's an enemy. So it's the enemy's color. And the score is the last thing we have. So I actually think that players, where's my game state? So list of players isn't going to have much in it. Let's do some inheritance anyway. By making a piece. Why doesn't it become public automatically? I don't know. So an enemy inherits from a piece, and a piece has a position X and Y. Okay. And a player, make a player now. Making some models. A player also inherits from a piece, and it has a score. So a player is a piece with a score. A piece. Enemy is a piece with a birthday in milliseconds. And I guess that's fine for now. We might move that birthday around, but for now that's good. So now we can actually get an X spawn location. We can pass in the model of the entire game state and say, I want to get the next spawn location, and here's everything you'll ever need to know. And I'm returning a new position with nothing set so that I get rid of the red squigglies, which said you're not returning anything. So now let's do some logic. The server, the client says, here's how you get a new piece. You do it like this, right? So this is where we turn JavaScript into, where's my service? Here, let's build. Does this build? Kind of builds, syntax errors. Take that out for now. This is going to have to be enemy from the other models class. I might make a view model layer with another copy of all the models. I don't feel like I want to. Now this is capital. Great. Inheritance just works. I have to install bcl.build. Okay. Fine, I'll do that. What was that error again? All processes referencing must be called NuGet package microsoft.bcl.build. Are some of them doing that? That one. Look at that, only service has it, but web is referencing that, so we'll give it to web also. Did the warning go away? Ostigard asks, what kind of game is this? Ostigard, this is an epic chess themed arcade game where you capture things. Here, I'll play it for you. It still works maybe, but I'm rapidly breaking it. You can play this right now, by the way, if you're watching, by browsing to chesswiz.tv. You have to spell it like that, ChessWhiz TV, and clicking arcade at the top of the screen. Your goal is to capture these chess pieces. And the game kind of works. We're really re-architecting a lot of it by making it so that the server drives the engine instead of having the client drive everything. So this is not really exciting because you don't see any changes yet, but it's exciting to me because it's going to allow multiplayer eventually. So it's pretty cool. Now we're in the throes. We're writing a function called getNextSpawnLocation. And we're doing that by taking the JavaScript and pasting it into the C# file. And look at that. And look at that, JavaScript in a C# file. It sure is ugly, isn't it? So let's change it into C#. These loops loop through port size X and Y, so I guess I will make a globals, a static class globals, public read-only int board size X equals 8. So now I can be like, oh, how big is the board? I know, it's right in here. It is in globals.boardSizeX. Now, why didn't that get better? I don't know, it's static, so that should work. What's your problem, man? An object reference is required for non-static field. Oh, I thought I made the class static, but I have to make the variables themselves, the properties static. Okay, so now that's gone. So now for each, this is going to be C#, each p rp in state.players. Can't spawn where a player is. If p.posX, see how I just turn the JavaScript into C# and everything becomes awesome? And the comments I don't even have to change. I'll fix the alignment later. So this part's a little tricky, so I'll have to comment it out for now. It says can't spawn where a player can move. So I'm going to do that and say I'll do it later. I'll make it so you can't spawn where a player can move. Okay. Having trouble with my tabbing, so maybe I just won't fix that yet, because once I get all this work, it'll auto tabulate itself. RP in state dot enemies. It's going to be E. This should be enemy, and this should be player, because that's the way you write in C#. It's better to use the whole word. So just a little fixing of this code. Can't spawn where a piece is. Done. Change this to an enemy. And can't spawn in the corners. And now I will actually, if this or this, I'll space this out a little bit better. Or this, because otherwise the line is super long. Then OK is false. OK, now we've got the push thing. It's called add in C#. Pause X is J. Look at that, it just translated me straight over. Pause Y is I. If math.count. Oh, length becomes count. So easy. Math.floor is math.floor. Just capitalize the F. Math.random is... there is no math.random in C#. I think I have to make a new object called random. Which is too bad. But I'll just make a new random. And random. And I can pass in 0 and candidates.count minus 1 to pick a random number between 0 and pick a random item from the list. Is that better? You got a problem? Decimal. Just cast it to an int. Should be an int. So I don't need to go math.floor at all. There we go. Location is candidate entity, and then return. Just return. Look at that. Return candidates I've indexed. So I didn't really explain this, and that's because this function was already written for me. But the beauty of it is that it's really code cleanup more than anything else. Why is this underlined? Oh, it's a for each. In JavaScript, you just use for eaches. Otherwise, if candidates.count is equal to 0, then I will actually say throw an invalid operation exception. So this could happen if you're amazing at this game. Then there could be nowhere for your piece to appear. I don't anticipate that being possible. So I'll just throw an exception. Does this build now? Yeah, it does. Okay, so it loops through X, loops through Y. It does all the things. We don't have player movement yet, so that'll have to come back later. And it returns a random position among the candidates. Okay, so now this will pick a random spawn location. So I can now call that from my hub. So I need to create a new game state. Enemies is empty list. I should probably have a constructor on the game state thing. All right, so I can make a new one. Not sure if I'm going to need this. So captures until level up comes from, this logic is also in the client. Let's look for the reset. Captures until level up equals captures per level, which is part of the difficulty here. So now we need to change This is actually important. Globals. The difficulty, this thing, like there's 3 levels per capture, that needs to be stored on the server because the server keeps track of that kind of thing now. So now, here we go. So there's a constructor. It puts the level to 1. So now I can just create a new game state. And it will automatically initialize it to the defaults. I need to pass in the number of players. Right? How many players will there be? And players. Player. I'm adding a new player. And the player is going to have, well, what can it have? Position X equals. I'm actually going to go to the initializer here. Not you, client-side player. Because there's a certain place that player 1 starts. I guess it could just start in the corner. Position X is 0. Position Y is 7, which means the bottom of the board. Let's make all this one line. So you would think, why don't I just loop through the players and add them until they're all there? But I'm actually going to not do that. Instead, I'm going to say I'm going to add the first player, and then I can say if there's 2 of them, then add the second one. The reason is if I loop, I have to give them locations somewhere, and it's not easy to say where should player 1 go. Well, is it player 1 or player 2? And the loop has to know which player it is, and it's just a lot simpler to just add the first one, and then if there's 2, add the second one. So now the players are added. We don't start with any enemies. It's kind of suspicious, actually, because it needs to start with 1 enemy. But I don't think I'll do that in the constructor. That would be kind of intense. This shouldn't be done in the constructor either. This should be done in a service. There should be a new service. I'm just writing so much code here, because that's what happens when you're building something new. I'm making a service called state service, which is a bit of a misnomer. Services should be named after entities in the game. So an enemy is an entity, a player is an entity, and there's not a lot of other entities because it's a really simple game. But I need somewhere to say start and start the game. So I'm putting it in the state service. I'm making a new game state. Now the constructor is a default constructor. It doesn't have something passing in. It just makes a new. So now when you make a new game state, there's no enemies, there's no players, you're on level 1, blah, 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 blah. Good. And then this thing does start, creates the 2 players. The state service needs a reference to the enemy service, so I'm going to use dependency injection to get that, which is somewhat like this from my controller. Copying that over. There's going to be an I enemy service. It's not an enemy service. So for those of you who haven't seen dependency injection before, that's all right with me. You don't have to have seen it before. But the simple way to say it is, when this thing is created, the state service is created, it's going to call this constructor to create it, and it's going to say, hey, I need an IEnemy service, which doesn't exist right now. It's an interface. Inherits from IEnemy. How come I can't inherit from this? I typed it wrong. I need one of these, and so it's going to automatically make one. My dependency injector is called autofac, which I'm not going to be pronouncing many times because it sounds like a swear word. But it will automatically create one of these and pass it in. So then I'm going to have an enemy service. Then I can go model.enemies.add new enemy. I'm adding a new enemy. And apparently it has a position X and a position Y. Which I'm not happy about, because that's two things. So I need a constructor. That where you pass in a position. Why would you default to Y? Okay, so this is probably going over your guys' heads, and I'm sorry about that because I'm just writing so much code so quickly. But I will hopefully have some kind of recap when I'm done here. So I'm adding, this is starting the game. I'm making a new game state and adding the two players. Model.players.add. It's nice that I get those kinds of problems shown because it's a compiled language instead of JavaScript, which isn't. I'm going to answer your question in a moment, Wompy. Please be patient. And then I need to get a new enemy. Access my enemy service and call. So it's not finding the method in my enemy service, which is get next spawn location, because it's not in the interface. So I'll just put that in the interface. Bam. Now it's going to know about it. Enemy service get next spawn location. And I have to pass in a state. What do you know? I have a state. It's model. So that's kind of cool. I say, I want to get the position of the first enemy. So it passes in the current model, which is, here's a game, it's got two players, and bam, it gives me a position, and then I add that position. It's going to send the model back. Now my hub doesn't need to make a state, just needs to make a model. Even this logic can be moved out to the service layer. Part of the game state is part of the game state is when the game started. In milliseconds. So that's going to be set in the constructor as well to when it ran. That's really nice because now it doesn't need to be set anywhere else. So a few people are wandering in and saying, what in the world's going on? The answer is I'm making a chess-themed arcade game where you run around the chessboard and capture pawns with your knight. So here's my knight, 3, 2, 1, go. This is the game so far. So I can run around with my knight and capture things. And you capture these things. And if you don't capture them quickly enough, they grow and grow and grow and become really bad. You can play the game in progress right now at ChessWhiz.tv, and I'll put that link in the chat because people are asking me this. /arcade is how to get to it. So you click that and bam, and you can click play now and play it. It kind of works, but what I'm doing right now is writing the server logic on the server side so that I can drive multiplayer from the server, because right now the entire game is driven from the client side, which means you can't communicate with anyone. So the downside is you won't see the fruition of this work for a long, long time because it has to be built in the server before you can see any of it. But that's part of programming sometimes. Programming is sometimes it's just downsides. Enemy does not have a constructor that takes 0 arguments. Now you have to pass in positions. Well, I don't need to create enemies on move player anymore. So move will do nothing, I guess, for a moment, because the constructor to enemy E doesn't exist in the current context. I don't think I need to call add enemy. I think instead start game is just going to pass, bleh, here's all the players and enemies and everything. And then the client's going to say, great, got it. And it's going to assemble everything. So that's all I need to do. Add enemy will have to come later, which obviously is here in add enemy. So it now builds. When start game is called, I don't need to make my own model. I can call in to the state service. Now I'm really hoping the dependency injection will work here on this hub, because otherwise I'm hosed. State service. Unfortunately, my state service doesn't have an interface yet. So I'll take my interface from enemy service. Make it work like that. So now state service has an interface. State service is a horrible name because a state is not an entity, it's everything. So we'll see if we can refactor that later. 1,100 points from Mercury. Nice job, Mercury. I'm a whiz, so I got 4,000. But that's pretty good. So not bad. Model equals state service.start. Number of players, 1. Cool, it might work. And I call start game. Build that, it built. So now let's just see if it loads on the screen. It loads, and I got an internal server error in my jQuery. I think it's because I called something here that doesn't exist. No, seems to exist. 500 internal server error. I wonder if it's because of my dependency injection. I'm afraid of this. So I'm going to try it like that without it and see if that fixes it. And that did fix it. So that's really bad. Signal. I need an autofact.signalr NuGet package. So I can make this work. I just need to add a package to make signalr and autofact work together. So great. Let's search online for autofact signalr. See if there is such a package. Autofact signalr integration. Install! Perfect! And then hopefully I can inject all this stuff. Build and run. Hope this just works. Run in debug mode and run. Connection refused? Nope. Still that error. Send. I wonder if there's anything else I need to do. Oh, I need to call register hubs in autofact. So this is a dependency injection thing. Here's all my registering. Can't do anything. Register my database, my repository. All this stuff didn't even need a database. There. Let's try it that way. Oh. So please tell me what I need to include to make that a function. I want to register all my hubs. Owen integration. I don't like Owen. He's mean. Is it in here? Look at that! Integration.signalr. And there it is. So now that one is all squiggly, probably because it's in 2 namespaces. I think I want the signal R one. Looks like they're not using it though. They're not using it. Well, yeah, they are. It just doesn't say which one they're including. So let's use the signal R one. Bam! See if this works. There's 2 autofact dependency resolvers in my project now. You should put a ranking board on the site to show who has the better score. Is that possible? Yes, Mercury. The problem, of course, is you can cheat easily by just sending a message to me that says, hey, I got 1,000,000 points. And when I receive it, I'll just be like, how do I know you didn't? So part of this refactor to allow the server to run the game is to be able to say, oh, you made those moves and got 1,000,000 points. So it helps to catch cheaters in that way. So the signal R doesn't implement something important, so let's not do the signal R one. Let's do the MVC one. Let's see if that works. Still errors down there. We will have a high score board, and we will have music. Good point, Mercury. In fact, you can actually go to here, Mercury. Look what you can do. ChessWhiz.tv arcade and be like task list and see all the things we're going to do. And in this list, you will find way over here in the wish list, track the top scores and player rankings. Okay, and nuclear bombs. I'm not George Bush. And the other thing you asked for is music and background. Look at that. Add sound effects. So let's put that in. AD, it's not enough letters. Add mucus. Add music. Great. Thanks for the feedback. Now we're going to add music. So it crashed still. I need more help. Let's read this. Is there such a thing as an iLifetime scope? There is. So I will do what they say. And I will add a lifetime scope. I don't need an iLogger. And this goes in my constructor. which I have here. And this goes there. And this goes away. This should be read-only also. Thank you for reminding me. And then you've got a dispose method. Great. So that'll help with the dependency injection, but I don't think it solves it either. Let's find out. I have to run it. Try again. Okay. Cannot read property piece if undefined. Not sure where that random error came from. World.js line 41. I think I got that by mousing over this thing before everything was loaded. So that'll fix itself when the server drives it. So now there's just this one problem, which is coming from the dependency injection again. So let's find another article. Not randomness, but about signal R and autofac. Here's a good one. I get a headache. This is too difficult. Thank you, Mercury, for the compliment, saying that my game is very cool and addictive. Addictive might be a bad thing. Maybe you want to go get some sunshine right now. But might be good. Here's lots of people asking how to do what I'm trying to do. Hubs are in an external DLL. Wow, that's a long question. How do I get to the answer? You have mad edits. Wow. I'm not going to read that. So I wonder if I could use this code. I wonder if it's something like this. There's no such thing as a signal R autofac dependency result. There is no such thing. Whoops, I don't want to create a class for it either. Where did that class just go? Over here? Yeah, I don't want that. Delete. So that doesn't exist. However, that exists. Route tables? I don't need routes. That's not maybe that is my problem. Okay. I don't know. I pasted some code in from the internet. It seems like it should work. The problem is use iappbuilder.map signal R. Man, I can't solve this. The problem is it's half finished right now. So if I quit now, the whole thing is going to be screwed up. Fortunately, I don't have to roll this change out. The game pretty much works without me. Don't understand you. Don't understand you. Dependency injection in signal R. A whole new problem. You know, I actually think I have this in another project I wrote. But everything's changed now. Oh, here it is. Here it is. guys. This might be a solution. Might not be a solution. People are disconnecting from the stream. That's okay. I don't blame you. In fact, if you're bored right now, just disconnect right now, because I'm bored too. The next chess show will be Tuesday at 2 p.m. EST, next Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern time. So you should just tune in for that, because this is just winding down as ChessWhiz struggles. Inject. Yeah. I give up. I give up. I can't figure out how to make dependency injection work with SignalR, but I will do that. So I think that this is so niche that not a lot of people want to see me fight AutoFac and SignalR together. It's not even my own project. So I think I'll just do this on my own time and come back for the next stream with dependency injection and SignalR working together correctly. I'm not going to do any programming on the server side. I'm not going to do any fancy database work yet. I'm going to stream that part for you. So you do get to see adding the game state to the database and pulling it out with each request and all that important stuff, because the game state does have to be persisted in a database. So the only cheating I'm going to do, the only programming off camera, is what you see me struggling to do right now, which is to make dependency injection work with the hub, so that when I make a hub, I can automatically have those services, references to those services. So I can create, I can call start, and I can call spawn new enemy piece location, all that good stuff. So that's what I'm going to do without wasting your time. So I hope you enjoyed what fun this was, and I will see you guys soon. This has been ChessWhiz Arcade episode 5 part 2. Thanks for watching.